Wait a second. I mean, you say that you didn't pick Marvin Vettori to beat Israel Adesanya. With all due respect to the Italian Dream, you didn't pick that one, right? You thought Marvin Vettori was going to beat Israel?
No, I didn't pick that one. That's the one that I kind of strayed away from.
Okay,
I thought
right.
Izzy was going to win, but the other ones, boy, I had a hard time picking against Figueiredo, and I had a hard time believing that the Diaz fight would end in the way that it did because of the style that Edwards has. But alas, Nate proves me wrong again, and the Assassin Baby just did his thing.
Okay, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's give the main eventers their proper due. So Israel Adesanya returns from the loss to Jan Blachowicz. Looks very good, I thought, against Marvin Vettori. This time, no controversy. He had a little fun with Marvin at the end there before they announced the judges' scorecards. Marvin putting his hand up. I thought it was 50-45 pretty clearly. Izzy didn't get the finish. But I actually want to ask you, DC, I felt that Izzy was enjoying. I mean, I'm not going to say he was beating him up to the point where, Marvin had to go to the hospital or anything like that. But I actually felt like he wanted to prolong this, that he wanted to prove a point that he was that much better than Marvin. We even saw, I think, at the end of the fourth or third, he threw that impressive, significant strike to the buttocks of Marvin Vettori. Did you feel like he didn't go to that extra gear to finish Marvin because he was actually enjoying outclassing him?
I don't believe that he would make it last any longer, but as the fight was going on, and Marvin's tough, right? Marvin's a tough guy that's not going to give up. He enjoyed Marvin not being able to get anything going, right? For as hard as he was trying, he wasn't able to take him down. He wasn't able to hit him. He wasn't able to set any traps to get any momentum going in the right direction. I believe that Izzy enjoyed that. But if Izzy could have performed in the way that he did against Paulo Costa and ended the night early, trust me, he would have done that. He would have loved to do that. But this was as good as it gets under the circumstances because Vettori's tough. Vettori's not going anywhere. Vettori's big. He's durable. So Izzy just kind of outclassed him. It did not look competitive. And then, afterwards Izzy said something like Marvin thought he won. There's no way, right? Like, he was joking, right? Was he joking or did Marvin really think he won the fight when he went to the center?
I mean, if he was listening to his coaches and he has an all-star team by his side, Rafael Cordero leading the pack, they were telling him that he wasn't winning. So unless, he was just trying to convince himself or throwing out, the positive vibes by lifting his hand, no one around him, to their credit, was telling him that he was winning the fight. If you had to give Izzy a grade, what kind of grade would you give him for that performance?
I'd probably give him an A. You know why? Because he got taken down once, I believe. He completely outclassed him on the feet. He really took it to him. Gave his opponent nothing. Sometimes what's expected is the most difficult thing to do, right? It was expected that Israel Adesanya was going to win this fight. It was expected that he would win in dominant fashion. Sometimes that is the hardest thing. And he went out there and completely outmanned a very, very talented fighter. Vettori had no chance. It didn't seem like anything outside of the submission attempt was going to allow for him to win the fight. And I'm telling you, even the submission defense that Izzy showed in that moment, you could almost see the wind get taken out of Marvin's sails.
Yeah, there was a great moment there mid-fight where Marvin got Izzy's back and Izzy was able to escape relatively quickly. Afterwards, he said he saw his soul leave his body after that moment, and Izzy never really seemed to be in trouble. I had so many flashbacks of a young Michael Bisping when I was watching Marvin all week long. Not just the hairstyle, which looks a lot like the old days Michael Bisping, the tough three, Michael Bisping, the shaved head, but just his demeanor, how fired up he was getting. I felt like he was too emotional going to the fight. I felt like at the press conference, he was getting a little too fired up. You got to kind of calm down in the days leading up to the fight. Do you feel like he could have done anything differently to win that fight, or is this just a matter of Izzy being the better fighter? They fight 10 times, he's winning 10 out of 10.
He's hard. It's hard. It's hard to really gauge how much energy you're giving to those type of situations when you're in your first championship fight. As time goes on, as the champion, you kind of settle into that role. But as a challenger, the first time, you're giving all the energy and everything that you're doing because you're so excited to be there, right? It's so, it's such a big moment in your career. It's something you've dreamt about for so long. It's something you've wanted for so long that when you think about it, and you're 3 days from the fight, 2 days from the fight, you're giving 100% to all of it. And I believe that's what happened to Marvin. There was nothing he could have done differently. He's an emotional guy. We've known Marvin for a while now, right? We've seen him at the top of the sport. And this is kind of how he operates. But ultimately, emotions aren't going to get you wins against guys like Israel Adesanya. You have to piece together fights in order to beat him. And I'm not certain Marvin has the type of style to do that. Look, watching Jan Blachowicz take Izzy down and control him seems to be the path to victory. What people cannot forget is that over the course of 4 rounds prior, Jan Blachowicz was able to stand with Izzy. And not only stand with Izzy, put him on his back foot, slow him down, outstrike Israel Adesanya. So it's not just a matter of taking him down. You got to do all that other stuff in the beginning in order to give yourself a chance to get to that point where takedowns will matter and ultimately win you the fight.
I will also add, despite what we saw in the Jan fight, Izzy's takedown defense and his wrestling has improved dramatically, in my opinion. And also, I would say that despite the fact that he was able to be taken down in the latter portions of that fight, and to your point, Jan Blachowicz outstruck him, there are weight classes for a reason. Just ask Floyd Mayweather, who learned about that against Logan Paul in that grueling fight that they had 2 weekends ago in Florida. There are weight classes for a reason. So here's Izzy returning to 185, his natural weight class. And, the night before in Bellator, we saw Douglas Lima return back to 170, and he got thoroughly outclassed. I thought that Izzy was a lock to win this fight, but there was a part of me, historically, we see guys who come back down to their natural weight class, they stumble in their return. There was no stumbling. He looked fantastic. And afterwards, he said, all right, Robert, we're doing it again. My arch nemesis. Love this fight. Thankfully, Robert's going to get the fight. Dana White saying afterwards, DC, that Izzy wants to return in October. That might be a little soon just given the calendar, but we'll see. And also Robert's timeline. But I would love to see that fight again because, of course, Whittaker has looked incredible since they fought back in October of 2019. Do you feel like this fight, without giving too much away, do you feel like this fight goes any differently than the first fight? Or do you think that now Whittaker has experienced Izzy once, he's gone on a roll, he's beaten some tough guys, this fight is going to look dramatically different than the first fight?
I think it's going to look different because every time people fight Israel, they look at the fight prior and believe that something's been figured out. If you go back into the fight with Robert Whittaker the first time, Ariel, you remember Gastelum had a lot of success just pressuring Israel Adesanya. So Robert Whittaker tried to do the same thing. But guess what? Izzy improves every single time out there. So when Rob pressured him, he just picked him apart and he ultimately finished him. Vettori thought he could do what Jan Blachowicz did. He got picked apart because Israel improved. Whittaker has improved also. I think he will be much more patient, and I think because of that, it will be a much more competitive fight. This is the fight, though. This is by far the fight that should be happening in the middleweight division. It probably should have happened already. Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya, the champ Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker is the best fight we can make right now at 185.
Yeah, Izzy was once again in fine form. He is a star. He is one of the biggest stars in the sport. Loved the tribute to his fallen friend and teammate. Loved the tribute to The Rock as he was walking out. I don't know if you saw that. He's playing The Rock song. Did you see that?
The mask.
Did you see that? The mask as well.
Did you see the
mask? Did you see after the fight?
Raiden mask?
The mask was tremendous. Yeah, the mask was tremendous. Look, everything about the guy. The guy just knows how to thrive in the moment when the spotlight is on him, when everyone's talking about him, when everyone wants to see how he'll respond from the last fight. And the stuff that he says about losses and how it doesn't define you, it's a joy to watch Israel Adesanya right now in his prime.
It's insane. But guess what, though? Israel does things to these guys, Ariel, to try to not leave them the same. Him grabbing Marvin by the ass, that's crazy. Him grabbing and reaching over and squeezing his butt, doing what he did to Paulo Costa. He tries to ruin these dudes. He tries to ruin these dudes to where when they're done with him, they're never the same. And look at the mental toll that the loss has taken on poor Paulo Costa. I mean, I don't like this. I don't want to rag on Paulo Costa, but come on, man. And now, I mean, I don't want to say nothing about Marvin Vettori because then he's going to try to attack you again. Like, well, I mean, come on, Ariel. This is crazy, man. Izzy tries to ruin guys.
He is unbelievable. The gamesmanship, the head games, all that stuff and more. Very entertaining to watch.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.